Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the Say Gay podcast with me. How's everybody doing today, you guys? Happy Wednesday. When you're listening to this, I'm recording on Tuesday, but happy Wednesday. How's everyone doing? I hope you guys are having a wonderful week, and I'm excited for this new episode, you guys. I actually have no idea. I had no idea what I was going to talk about on this episode until literally right before recording this, just because I've been so unbelievably busy lately, with work and then events and making time for friends and then Pride Month's coming up, so much stuff that I've been so busy with. And so I haven't really set aside time to think about what I wanted to record and time to record. I usually record the podcast on Tuesdays, before I post Wednesday. And so, obviously that's what I'm doing today. It's Tuesday as I'm recording this, but I literally woke up this morning and I was like, what the fuck am I going to talk about today? I have no idea. And so usually, you guys know, I try to keep this podcast a lot of gay, content, because it's the Say Gay podcast. But I think today I'm going to talk a little bit more about it'll be kind of a self-help episode, mental health kind of stuff like that. And I've talked about some mental health stuff before. It's not something that I am afraid to talk about. You guys, I'm sorry, Apollo. I'm looking down. Apollo's down here. I don't know what he's doing, acting a damn fool. But I've talked about some mental health stuff before, and that's kind of what I want to talk about today. Is I want to talk about a little bit of self-sabotage, because this is a lot of current stuff I'm going through. I like to talk about current things that I'm going through. And so I want to talk about self-sabotage, toxic people in your life, and then just kind of being happy and choosing things that make you happy. I talked about loving yourself, the loving yourself episode, I think was 3 weeks ago. And so I feel that's kind of similar of what I'm going to talk about. But it's not going to be specifically loving yourself. I like to talk about these types of things on the podcast too, because I don't think this podcast is just specifically gay stuff. And I think other people listening to this can benefit from mental health stuff as well, especially people in the community, because, it could be stuff that we're all going through. And so, first thing I want to talk about is self-sabotage. And like I said, it's a lot of stuff that I'm personally going through, and there's a lot of things in my life recently, and I don't want to get into super specific details because it's a lot of personal stuff that I'm going through. But I've been self-sabotaging a lot, and it's stupid things. It's just if it's going out, and if I'm going out with my friends and going clubbing, it's self-sabotaging in a way that I'm just making really bad decisions and doing really stupid things. And so I'm trying to be more aware of those things. And it's this is very recent, this past weekend, that I've gone out and made really bad decisions. And it's I know after I make the bad decisions and the next day, it's I know that I made a bad decision. It's just I don't know why I'm making those bad decisions. And so it's a form of self-sabotage. And I think self-sabotage can come in a lot of different forms too. It's not just bad decisions in your life, well, it is your life personally, but it can be a career bad decision, self-sabotage. You can self-sabotage an opportunity, you can self-sabotage relationships, friendships, family, all those kinds of things. And so recently for me, it's been lots of relationships and stuff. And so I've been self-sabotaging my relationships in life, and not just love relation, a relationship dating, but I feel friendships and family, stuff like that. Not really family. I'm not really self-sabotaging my family relationships, but just relationships in general. I wouldn't say career that I really self-sabotage, because I like what I do. I've talked about my career or my job. I don't really call my job a career because it's not a career for me, but regardless, I think it's just a lot of me self-sabotaging things in life recently. And so for me, it's kind of learning about being aware of those things and not self-sabotaging in a way, and learning my limits in life, and not just I don't want to specifically say learning my limits for drinking, because a lot of times when I make bad decisions, and I know a lot of other people can probably feel the same way, is when you start drinking and you don't know your limit, and then you make a bad decision, and then you have to deal with the repercussions the next day. For me, that's been more recently. And it's not I don't ever when it comes to alcohol and going out and stuff like that, I'm not one to get crazy every single weekend. I don't do that. I don't go out every single weekend. I only go, I live pretty far away from our downtown area. And so I don't go out every weekend because it's not that enjoyable to me. I'm a very anxious person. I have I don't have like social anxiety. I'm a very social butterfly, but like when I get into like big crowds and like there's a lot of people around, like I get very anxious. And so going out every weekend to me sounds absolutely horrible. Other people, like you guys might enjoy that. Like go for it. If that's something you want to do, then do it. Like if that makes you happy, then do it. But like for me, I can't do it every weekend. Like I can only do it like every so often. So, but yeah, like for me, it's just been a lot of like self-sabotage when it comes to like making bad decisions. And so, like I said, I'm just trying to like be more aware of those things and like be aware of like my surroundings and like what I'm doing, who I'm talking to, all those things, and not like making a fool out of myself and self-sabotaging certain situations in my life that, you know, if I make a bad decision when I'm out, it's not self-sabotaging my personal life back home or whatever it might be. So that's something that I'm just personally going through when it comes to, you know, my personal life is self-sabotage. And then another thing that I've been going through a lot recently is like toxic people in your life and just being toxic in general. Like for me, like self-sabotaging, like a lot of the self-sabotage I've been doing makes me look like a toxic person. And I don't, like, I'm not trying to be toxic. Like I'm not, like I've never thought that I was a toxic person, but it's like I'm being toxic to myself and like my personal relationships. And so like being toxic is like, just don't do it, you guys. Like don't be toxic. And like for me, it's not like I'm aware of being toxic. Like I'm not like purposely like gaslighting people and being toxic. It's just like some of the decisions I've made recently have made me seem very toxic. But like I want to like a little bit talk about like just toxic people in general in your life. And this is not targeted towards anybody, so I hope nobody listening to this is like thinking like I'm talking about you specifically, because I'm not trying to call anybody out. That's why I don't use names in the podcast, because usually I don't use names in the podcast because I'm not trying to call anybody out. But more recently, like I guess like if it's, you know, people from my past, like reconnecting with friends, or if it's current friends or relationships or talking to new people, meeting new people, I feel like I've noticed a lot of like people like toxic behavior, and it's just like I don't get it in a way. And it's like I think that's another, I feel like this whole episode is just kind of about being like self-aware, but like I think when it comes to being toxic, it is about being self-aware of like the decisions you're making that makes you seem like a toxic person. And it's like just like little things that like people can say or do that makes you seem super toxic in a way. And so if you ever find yourself, you know, being toxic, it's again, like I'm saying, just be aware. And then if you find yourself in a toxic situation, like if you are, you know, dating somebody and like it's a very toxic relationship between you guys, like if you're both aware that it's toxic, like either A, you need to change it up and like stop being toxic towards each other, or B, just end it in a way. And I don't mean to be like the negative, you know, negative Nancy here, but like sometimes when you're in a toxic situation, there's really no fixing it. And sometimes it's better just to move on. And so those are kind of things that like I'm learning personally a lot, is like, is the toxic behavior, is it fixable, or is it something that I should just move on? And so that obviously, me saying that is like a specific situation in my life right now, but I'm not going to deep dive into that because it's just not for social media to know all about that, you know, personal situations in my life. But it's something that I'm going through, and so it's like something I can talk about, is like, is a toxic situation, you know, fixable in a way. And it's like, again, like being aware of those things. And so if you don't realize like things that you're doing that are toxic, like, you know, for one, try to be more self-aware, and two, like ask people like, hey, am I doing something that's like toxic? Like if you're questioning like, does that seem toxic of me? You know, it probably is, for starters. Like I know for me, like I've made decisions, like the self-sabotaging thing I was just talking about, like I've made decisions that I'm like, damn, like that makes me look so fucking toxic. Like that makes me look like an asshole. And so it's again, like being aware of those things and like realizing like, okay, I need to fix myself in a way. I need to be a better person because I'm not trying to be toxic to other people. The same way that I don't want people to be toxic to me. So, you know, just being aware of those toxic things that are going on in your life. And if you have somebody toxic in your life, and people who are a toxic person in your life, they can fix themselves. Like I'm 100% the type of person that like, I'll give you a second chance if it means like you're better than you were before. But if you continuously, you know, show me that you're going to be toxic over and over and over and over, I'm not going to give you multiple chances. Like I'm just going to cut you out of my life. Like I've cut people out of my life for little things. And so, not little things, I don't want to be like that person that's like, I'll cut you off for anything. But I have cut people out of my life for reasons of being toxic or just in general, like not wanting them in my life. And so, if you countless or if you repeatedly are toxic to me or doing toxic things, I'm not going to be around you. Like I'm not the type of person that has time to be dealing with, like I told you guys that I'm really busy. I'm a busy person, and so I don't have time to be dealing with like toxic shit and like, you know, friendships of like me having to take care of like whatever, you know, toxic shit that you're doing. So just don't be toxic. Don't be a toxic person. Just like be a more aware of those situations. And if you are realizing like, damn, that's really toxic of me, like stop, maybe, I don't know, second get, like look at it, like just like be more aware of those situations and try not to be that toxic person, okay? And then the last thing I kind of want to talk about was just like being happy. And I think that's something that I'm coming to realize a lot more, is making decisions that make me happy and like doing things for myself. And so I think my whole life, like not my whole life, but like a majority of my life, I've always made decisions to make other people happy. And I've never had like the freedom to make my own decisions and make myself happy. And that's not like, I'm not trying to say that like I was controlled my whole life by anybody. Like it's not me trying to bash anybody from my past, but it was just something that I did for myself. It was like a self-sabotage thing, that I was always making decisions to make other people happy, and I never really put myself first. And so now I'm kind of in a position in my life that I can make decisions that benefit me, and like I don't have to, you know, deeply consider other people's, you know, opinions or whatever. I really don't like I don't ever try to base decisions off of other people's opinions, because their opinions don't, you know, control my life. Like your opinions don't pay my bills. They don't, you know, control everything that I do. Like, and at the end of the day, it's like I need to start making decisions that make me happy and make me a better person. And so that's what I'm like learning to do in life, is, you know, being happy, becoming a happier person, becoming a better person, and just making those decisions that are best for me, and not really concerning myself with, you know, other people. Like I am aware of like other people and like the decisions that I make in life. I'm aware that obviously they can affect other people, but like for me, it's more recently of just making the decisions that are best for me, and not being toxic, like being fake and being toxic to other people in my life. And so, you know, just making decisions to be happy and like make yourself happy. At the end of the day, like at the end of the day, I've always said this my whole life, and some people might agree with me, some people might not agree with me on this, but I've always said at the end of the day, you only have your own back. Like at the very end of your life, who has your back? It's you. Like you can't rely on other people. Like people can be shady, people can be toxic. And they can, you know, fuck you over. They can do things that are going to hurt you. And so at the end of the day, you really have to have your own back, and you have to make decisions that are best for you. Obviously, like certain decisions can hurt people. And so it's never my intentions to make decisions that are hurting people. But sometimes, you know, to do what's best for you, sometimes you do. I don't want to say you have to hurt people, because that sounds really bad, but like sometimes you have to make decisions that are best for you, at the end of the day. And like if it does hurt someone's feelings, it's like it's not intentional that the decisions I'm making are hurting other people, but you know, just making those decisions that are best for myself. Like talking from personal experience, like I'm making all the decisions in life lately that are best for me. Obviously, like I said, that I was doing things that are toxic and self-sabotaging, so I need to get better about certain things in life. But you know, just deciding to be happy really at the end of the day, and like truly like loving yourself, again, like I've said before, truly loving yourself and making decisions that are best for you, and like making yourself happy. At the end of the day, like I said, you only have your own back, and so you have to do those things that make you happy. And don't ever waste your time, don't waste other people's time, because that's another trait of being toxic, is just wasting time for other people. Like don't waste other people's time, and don't lead people on, and like just don't do those things. So yeah, just be happy and love yourself, you guys. Don't be I just said stop being toxic. Don't be toxic, and stop self-sabotaging in a way. Just being more aware in life in general, you know, aware with the decisions you're making, aware with the things that you're doing, aware of your surroundings, aware of who's around you, all those things. And those are all things that I'm learning. I'm not sitting here saying that I'm perfect at all these things. I'm really not. But these are things that I'm learning, things that I'm doing to be a better person and be the person that I want to be in the future. And so just learning a lot as I go. I'm young, obviously, like, and I have a lot of learning to do. But those are just decisions, or those are things that I'm like learning and things that I'm doing. And so, yeah, just be happy, you guys. Like, make the decisions that are best for you at the end of the day. So, I know this episode is kind of all over the place. I feel like I kind of babbled about a lot of different things. I had no notes for this, so if this sounds like a lot of all over the place, I do apologize. But I just kind of wanted to get this stuff out because I feel like this podcast is kind of a diary for me in a way. And so it's kind of my opportunities to talk about things that I'm going through. Because I've told you guys before, it helps me a lot to talk about these things. And obviously I'm not talking to I'm talking to social media, but like right here, I'm alone. Obviously Paulo's here, but like, it just helps me to talk about these things. And so, I do, and again, I'm sorry if this is just me like babbling, but yeah, this is just what I wanted to talk about today, and it's just kind of stuff that I wanted to get out. So I love you guys as always. I love you guys so much. I love the people who listen to this podcast. I love the advice you guys always give. You guys always message me if you guys ever have questions or things you want me to talk about, or if you want to be on the podcast and you're in the area. Let me know. I would love to have you guys on, and I always love hearing what you guys want to hear about. So don't be afraid to reach out to me if you guys ever need anything. You guys can find the podcast at the Say Gay Podcast on all social medias, or you guys can find me on social media at callme.tobes. So, like I said, I love you guys as always. Every single Wednesday, y'all will get a new episode. Pride Month is coming up, you guys, so I'm excited to give you guys some Pride content. I am so unbelievably excited for Pride this year. So I have a lot planned, and so maybe I'll give you guys some, behind the scenes of like things that I'm doing for Pride Month, and I don't know, I guess we'll see. Maybe I'll give y'all some vlogs or some shit, because I'm gonna go to a lot of different events. And so I'm excited for Pride Month, you guys. I'm excited for, where this podcast is going. You guys share the podcast. I haven't talked about that in a while, but this podcast is completely shared word of mouth. And so share it, you guys. Share it with your friends. If you guys ever have anybody who, might need stuff like this, share it with them. Share it on your social medias. And I do appreciate that so much, you guys. So I love you guys as always, and I will talk to you guys next Wednesday. Love you. Bye.